So, back for round two of the second part of the Swim Car Talk video, once again with my boy Byron Taylor and Philip Graham. We're going to go through the second verse and just talk more about what it looks like to be able to survive after a relationship.
So we thought that relationship and love that we had was real. So we gave it all we had and we fell head over heels. Yeah. Found out that it wasn't what we wanted but enjoyed the thrill. So when it's done, then it's done. It may hurt, but we know the deal. We gotta learn to swim. I don't give away my heart. We gotta learn to swim.
So I stopped it right there because that was a critical piece for me, being able to talk through the thought process of like, I thought the relationship and love that we had was real. You know what I mean? That childish almost, like I'm all the way into this because this is the realest thing I know. This is the realest thing I had. So I thought the relationship and love that we had was real. But if it found out it wasn't all that we wanted. You know what I mean? So now that we found out it wasn't all that we wanted, it wasn't as real as we thought it was, you got to learn to swim. Right now, you got to get off the boat. Difficult process, because when you're in the middle of the ocean, somebody telling you to get off the boat, as you know, we refer back to part one, somebody tell you to get off the boat in the middle of the ocean, you're like, where am I going? At this point, like you're a divorcee, the marriage is over, you've given your money, your time, your house, your credit, your energy, all of this to this relationship, and now it's over, and it's like, but where am I going next? Because I can't see forward, I can't see back, I can't see left or right. You know what I mean? And that's a tough thing to do, to get out of a relationship that isn't healthy. Because you committed so much to it that you don't know where you're going in the damn boat, but at least you're in the boat with somebody. Now you by yourself trying to figure out where you're gonna go. And that becomes even more like, if not scary, at least apprehensive because of you by yourself.
Despite the fact the marriage didn't last long at all, I still learned a lot from it. We came in with our own thoughts about how things should work. No, we didn't work it out. Learned to compromise something. I used to think the love is all you really needed just to make it work. Then I focused in my thoughts on common vision. Ran into a couple that made it through some insane things. Cause through it all, they both focused on the same dream. Hate that you and I became statistics of the mainstream. Breakups all, bitch, I hate the lonely that the pain brings. And I know if we just couldn't work this junction, that it's better for Gianna not to grow up in dysfunction.
Now that's a major key. That's a major piece as far as your children. Because you had children with your first marriage, right?
Yeah, I did. And the crazy part about it is that, just like how you touched on in the song, my marriage didn't last long. I was with my ex-wife for 10 years and only married for 10 months. And they always say the first year is the roughest, and they never lied. When they say that, it's a lot of things that you have to deal with, that you learn, that you try to put behind you that you can't, and again, it just makes it bigger. And with the kids involved, then guess what? That's when child support comes into play too, because that's the first thing that's always discussed, especially when you're going through a divorce or breaking up, is child support. And the crazy thing with me is that I was put on child support while we were still married, still living in the same house.
Wait, how do you?
Easy. My ex-wife even woke me up and said, babe, we're running late, we got to get to court. So the whole time in my mind, I'm thinking that, nah, it's not going to happen. We live at the same house, we're married. And the judge still granted it because at the end of the day, the judge said you can leave at any point in time. And to save her time and energy, we'll just put you on it now. And that way we don't have to chase you later.
Damn. So literally before the marriage was even over, it was over. I
was already on child support. It was to the point where I was borrowing money that was mine just to get things. I would say, hey babe, can I hold about $200 please real quick so I can go get something? And she'd give it to me because it's already my money, so it don't even make a difference. But it didn't really start hurting until I left. And when I left, I didn't have that money that was flowing through the house, which was the child support, because now I'm in a whole nother household having to take care of myself, on top of that making those payments. So it gets real.
Now, the difficulty of that, right, is, and I think child support is a real thing, especially for black families. You know, I think the court system definitely uses child support in the court system to destroy the family even more.
Yep.
I think in situations where dudes ain't showing up and doing what they supposed to do, then do what you have to do to be able to get whatever support you can. But if there's a malleable situation that can be molded to be successful outside of the marriage, then I'm not a fan of the court system interfering, because I've seen the court system not really care about either parent or the child, but to really just care about the money that's flowing through them.
And that's all that matters. It was court hearings that I've been in, and I would say that I'm paying this, I'm paying that. Outside of the child support payment, the judge would tell me, no. I'm going to tell you right now, with the amount of money you're paying in child support, do not buy anything for your child's birthday. Do not do a Christmas, because you've already paid for it. And if you do decide to do that, you will not see that money back. So I advise you not to do those things. And how are you supposed to feel as a father? So you're telling me that I can't go forth and provide a nice Christmas? Why? Because of how high my child support payment is?
Bro, when I found out how much you was paying in child support, I literally made it my goal to never be you.
Oh, we could throw the numbers out there. It was $1,850 at one point. That's $1,850.
That's somebody's whole that's somebody's whole check. That's somebody's whole check.
And then for 3 consecutive years, it was $1,600.
So so how are you paying rent? Like, how are you maintaining?
That's when I started utilizing my Jamaican background and started working multiple jobs. So I was working 3 jobs. I was working an overnight job, a regular 9-to-5 job, and then I was squeezing in hours on the weekends at another place of employment, and it wasn't easy.
I mean, it can't be, you know what I mean? It's not that your children don't deserve the best care. That's not what we're saying, but it's astronomical, man, to pull that much money, that much from a person, and then expect them to be able to survive and live. But I think the biggest thing too, and I'm bad about cutting you off, but not just looking at the money side of it, but looking at the stability of the child. Here's a real thought process I'm having as I'm going through this. I come from a broken home. Like, how many of us in our generation come from single parent household?
Yeah.
Well, we're like, yo, I don't want to have a single parent household for my child. Like, I want to create a better situation for my kids. But here I am about to recreate the same problem. And it's back and forth battle. For me, it was like this back and forth battle. Like, I have to make this work for my child. But do I really want my child to see this relationship this unhealthy? You know what I mean? I know it's healthy for her to be in a situation where her mom and dad are in the same household, and she can, but if the interaction that she sees between them isn't positive, is it really beneficial? And the people can go both ways. I think there's argument to say, having your child be around both her mother and her father, or his mother and her father every day is powerful, But then people have to also, look at the other side of it. Is that a healthy relationship that they're looking at?
And that's the complicated piece about all of it. So, I don't have a dog in this fight one way or the other. Never married, no children. But I do understand pathology. And so pathology suggests that, we repeat the same actions that a lot of our family, our ancestors have done, even if you have a daughter who grows up in a household where there's no love and the mom and dad, they stay together but they're fighting all the time, it somehow allows her to believe that she can grow up and be in unhealthy relationships and repeat that same cycle. So what's the point in staying in that? Because you want them to be whole, you want to fix something that wasn't fixed within yourself, but it creates a whole nother series of complications and problems. It's hard to call it, man. I know I wouldn't want that for myself.
The beautiful part about this, you said you don't necessarily have a dog in the fight because you've never been married, you don't have any kids, but you getting your master's or doctorate right now?
Doctorate.
You getting your doctorate in?
Counseling psychology.
Right, and so that's dope that we actually, because this wasn't planned. Like, with you being in the car was kind of impromptu, but you being a part of the conversation with that psychology degree is major, because now we're talking about how this relationship is having psychological effects not only on the two people who were in it, but the byproducts of the relationship, which are now the children.
Absolutely. And so children are very observant. they see, they feel, they take in everything that they see, whether it's said or unsaid. And like I said, you spoke to some of that. You know, being in these toxic households. I grew up in a 2-parent household too, so in my parents' relationship, it was good for the most part. So I didn't notice any of those pieces, but when they weren't on the same page, you can feel it, you know. And as any child knows, like, if you want something and mama not gonna give it to you, you go to daddy,
right.
You know. And then you got a household where the parents don't get along anyway. Like, the child eventually learns how to manipulate that situation, and it makes it even worse between parents, or it possibly could. So there are a number of outcomes that could happen as a result of just being in a toxic situation with children involved, and it only makes the situation a lot more complicated.
And there's a level of sensitivity in how they interpret it too. Like my daughter, I asked her one time, I said, do you know why me and mommy are not together? And she said, cause y'all used to argue and fight all the time. And I'm baffled by that, because neither me or her mother are like big arguers. It's just not who we are. Like, I love a good intellectual argument, but like relationship argument, I don't do it. Like, I still have the Malcolm X movie in my house. You don't raise your voice in my house, woman. Like, in that part. So I'm that person. Like, I don't desire to argue. So I'm in my mind, I'm like, well, what was she seeing? Like, what did she see? And she could have just been hearing me and her mother go back and forth about an issue, but to her it sounded like fighting and screaming and yelling. To us it just sounded like a debate. But the sensitivity of her understanding, she's like, yo, mommy and daddy always screaming at each other. I'm like, so we're gonna go keep it moving, but that's a major thing about how their own sensitivities interpret things differently.
Matters of the heart, and I can hear it breaking. But I blame my heart for the hurt that we have taken. Solicited my mind to make a really tough decision, and focus on the good, never mind the bumpy ending. So, farewell, no longer a fairy tale of a prince and his princess, or Jack and Rose. Couldn't fit on the board, though they both jumped off the boat. So we better learn to swim, cause cold hearts never float.
So in that piece, I'm talking about two major things. The first one is me at this point in my life understanding the connection between the heart and the mind. Where your heart is so committed to a thing, but in your mind, in the back of your mind, you're like, nah, this ain't right. And it was through this relationship where I developed this thought process that my heart and my mind should be aligned. You know what I mean? If my heart is telling me go, but my mind is like, nah, then I ain't listening. If my mind is like go and my heart is like, nah, then I ain't listening. I'm only really listening if both my heart and the mind are in agreement. What I feel and what I think are in a line. Nah, man. Cause I feel like your heart will get you into stuff that you know ain't right for you. And then your mind will cause you to make decisions that you know you're not gonna really be committed to. You know what I mean? And so I feel like you gotta have both the congruency, the connection of the heart and the mind to be able to, one, make the good decision, and then two, to be able to fully commit to it. And then the second part of the end of that is just thinking about when Jack and Rose finally got off the boat on the Titanic and they landed on that board. They both jumped off the boat, but they couldn't fit on the board. There was only space for Rose. And so there's this thing, you better learn to swim because cold hearts never float. Here's the thing, like, and it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of part one. Now, your heart has been so broken in this relationship that it's cold. But cold hearts can't float. So now this whole thing about not even like having feelings or being able to really tap into your feelings with another person is that now going to prohibit you from swimming, from getting to your next destination, to being where you need to really be in your life, because you now have a hardened heart, or a cold heart, because you allowed yourself to stay in something too long and be completely broken. You know?
Yeah. That's deep. That's deep. That's yeah.
Yeah.
I think about saying, where your heart is, your treasures lie also. And you talked about the split between the heart and the mind. And a lot of times we make decisions based off of one or the other. And when they're not congruent or when they're not on the same page, you're going to run into complications. And it eventually leads to the second part of what you're saying, is that you're going to grow cold and numb to any situation and it makes it more difficult for you to be able to like release, to give up, to allow people back into that space, because you have cognitive dissonance. Like there's no agreement in what your heart is saying, what your mind is saying, and what you really want ultimately.
And at the end of the day, what I've learned from the first marriage going into the second one is getting a prenup. Now, people may say, well, you ain't got nothing to get a prenup, but when you ain't got nothing and they trying to take something, it's all the same. So you make sure that you cover your tracks and you cover those things. And it was kind of hard to talk her into getting
Right. That was my next question. Like, how'd you even manage to like?
Well,
How did
it's, it's all about wordplay. She owns her own business, so I was saying things like, if you don't get this prenup, I just might have to go after your business, out of spite. You never know. So she thought it would be a good idea to protect herself. And ultimately, of course, I thought it would be a great idea to protect myself, because I did dodge a bullet with the first one. Pennsylvania, the wife doesn't get alimony unless you're married 2 years plus. So since we were only married for 10 months, I dodged that bullet, because the Lord knows that if I would have to pay child support and alimony, that Bay Bridge would be a great place to learn how to swim.
Are you joking, bro?
Oh, man. If you want me to joke about it.
You can't joke with stuff like that. I mean, overall, man, I appreciate y'all riding with me today to discuss this song. Recording the song, from writing it to recording it to putting the video together, was a heavy thing. But I knew it was a heavy conversation for a lot of people, especially young people, especially people who got married, or people who have been divorced before. It's a difficulty in the conversation, because how many of us are able to really sit down and process both sides and be able to say, hey, let's talk about how to walk away from this thing in a healthy way. How many people post-marriage have healthy relationships with their exes in a way in which still allows the kid or the children involved to have a healthy situation. So I appreciate y'all. I hope this video can be used to be impactful for someone else. And we just gonna continue to make good music with good content for real people, Bless you. BT, Philip Graham, getting his doctorate in counseling psychology. We doing things to impact the world. Hopefully you all get great benefit from it. We'll get benefit from it, and we can all grow together. Peace.